The landscapes of our lives are for learning, where experience is our teacher. When we gather together to share our resources, we are destined to love and thrive. Good morning, Pierre.
Good morning, Maureen.
How are you?
Good. I have something I want to talk about this morning. How about that?
Excellent. I'm all ears.
Okay. I wanted to talk to you about CrossFit.
Okay. Let's do it. What do you want to know?
Okay. Well, I mean, for our audience, Maureen has gotten into CrossFit and it's got a phenomenal gym with a guy who's a leading CrossFitter and competitor and awesome motivator. Hopefully we'll have him on for an interview at some point. But you've got such a good mind around, mind body relationship and union. And I want to get your kind of take on CrossFit. I know some people that have just, massively type A, dive in, get hurt, come. It was just kind of a mess, run around, push big tires and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to know about that. What I want to know about CrossFit, the good stuff.
I mean, I'll tell you what I know, which will be incomplete, and I hope I can do CrossFit some service, and I'll point people to resources of it's funny you asked about this because I was just walking thin and I was listening to the Jocko Willink podcast, and Jocko owns a CrossFit gym and has for a long time, and he had Dave Castro, that's Finn. He had Dave Castro on, who worked and still works for CrossFit. They were both Navy guys, and Dave Castro is talking about how he to CrossFit and found it way back in 2003, 4, something like that. Anyway, kind of coincidental. So yeah, Dave Castro is one of the guys who did a lot of the programming and kind of built CrossFit, the company, which was founded by Greg Glassman, who now does what's called, and you might be interested in this, and we can maybe talk about it later, the Broken Science Initiative. Glassman's involved in that right now, and we'll talk about that later, but he's the guy
let's do another pod on that. That sounds like a fascinating topic to me.
Yeah, and I'm only bringing it up because Greg Glassman is very science-based about cross-functional fitness, and he created CrossFit, and that's what it stands for, cross-functional fitness. So to enable people to do everyday movements, it's really about movement, proper movement, and
Can I just stop?
Conditioning.
Yeah, let me just jump in right there because you said something's important to me, maybe our listeners, to do everyday movement. That is a beautiful phrase and a beautiful goal. I think what could be better, to do everyday movement and to be very fit for that. My take on a lot of gym work is the overconcentration on muscles and looking fit rather than being fit.
Right, which is called hypertrophy. That's when, bodybuilding, and those people may also be strong and have strength, but CrossFit is focused on building strength, which is different than building muscle and big muscles, hypertrophy. It's strength and conditioning with a cross or a variance, constant varied movements. And so that's why there's so many different skills and so many different movements. And I like it because it's never boring, because it's kind of the opposite of Bikram yoga, which is repetitive, the same thing over and over, which that has its value, but I like the variance too of CrossFit.
Right. That's a nice contrast that you're pointing out. And so yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, there's everything is done at scale according to people's abilities. And, like when I first started, I had, you find out pretty quickly where your weaknesses are in your movement patterns and your level of strength and flexibility. So you find out pretty quickly by doing all these varied movements, like what you suck at. And like I had no back
Is there,
muscles or strength in my back. My front was over developed because of yoga. And then I had like zero glute strength. So
Maureen, how do they do that?
just
How
by
do
going
they
to class.
test you out? Like you go through the different things that are part of CrossFit, and like if you suck at it, they're like, oh, well, you have no like arm strength.
Yeah, no, you walk into a gym and you say, I want to try CrossFit. And at my gym, they have a class that's called sweat, which is not using the barbell because that can be intimidating for people who
Right.
never lifted weights, and it looks like scary at first to some people.
It
So
does. It
it's
does.
it's more of a fitness and conditioning kind of class that's still CrossFit because you're doing varied movements, but you use dumbbells for weights usually, bands and different things. And so I started with that and just learning the movements, learning all the different movements, like an air squat or a pull-up or push-ups, push-ups from your knees, or riding the bike, or doing the ski erg or the rower. And so kind of just got introduced to all the different movements and how the class works. And it's great because it's very community based. That's a big part of CrossFit, is the community and the affiliates, that like it's really about everybody doing it together. It's not just come in and do your class and leave. It's very much, that's a big part of what CrossFit is the
Well,
community.
that's really, really, really the best description I've heard of CrossFit, and something that sounds interesting to me because my introduction to gyms, which happened before I started yoga, so I'm going back a ways.
Mhm.
I and just for listeners and just background, I've been an athletic person. We've talked about it before, but
Mhm.
basically, I need a stimulus like a game or a ball, and I chase balls
Mhm.
like a dog.
Yeah.
Um, but gyms were never my thing, and certainly weightlifting and wasn't. And when I tried to get back in shape, I went into a gym, I had a trainer, and it just didn't work for me, particularly because, the guy who was my trainer, who owned the gym, pretty cool guy. And then I got put with another trainer who, was kind of like a box of rocks, and just, go faster, and what it just made, there's nothing there.
Mm.
You just go in and do one thing, kind of, and the machines, all that stuff came out.
Were you
you
bored? Was it boring, or you just didn't
well
know
you,
the purpose? You
you
didn't have your why. There was nothing kind of sparking you to like want to kind of go after it. No, doesn't sound
no
like it.
community, no
Yeah,
real why, and
just task
knowledgeable
task
kind of.
oriented.
Yeah, and all these different stations meant nothing to me. The machines look stupid. And I had and intimidating, um and I have my prejudices, which I still have, which
Hmm.
is, you look at real athletes, okay? Talk about strength.
Hmm.
Um, look at these guys playing basketball.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't look like anybody in a gym.
yeah.
And I had a cousin who did some weightlifting, and we were moving some of his furniture, and I'm a pipsqueak, and I'm just lifting these things, and he's, looks like an Adonis, and he can't lift anything.
Yeah,
It was pathetic. I mean, and walk it downstairs,
yeah.
right? I,
Yeah, and that's the difference between kind of bodybuilders and hypertrophy versus people who have true strength. And Glassman, I think Dave Castro mentioned this. Like he was looking around, and he was in the SEAL teams, and at Buds, he was looking around, and like he was trying to get as fit as he could get. He said he was a runner, but he was a small guy, and he's like, I wasn't, I saw guys that were like, amazing athletes in high school and like bodybuilder types, and he said, they couldn't do a lot of the stuff that I could do, and vice versa, whatever. So that's what got him curious about quiet Finn. Come here, come. That's what got him curious to find out, like, what's the most optimal thing for, overall strength and fitness. And so he just stumbled across this CrossFit thing, and
That's cool.
Classman, it's measurable, like it's very, I don't want to say scientific, but Greg was a science guy, like, and
Yeah.
so this is very methodical. And anyways,
Well, let's come
that's about it.
back. Let's come back to Glassman and the science of it. I think what you said is, Glassman was very interested in what it takes to get fit. And I hope this little podcast kind of interests people and makes them curious about what it is to be fit, because there's so much material out there, and it's a little bit of a mystery just
Oh
being
yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
So
The fitness thing online is like, yeah, it's overwhelming. And I know Huberman he's had different fitness specialists and doctors, like, kinesiologists and so forth, with like good resources on, what the real deal is with fitness. Not, and because there's a lot of charlatans, there's a lot of, quick fix people, and it's kind
right,
of like the diet industry kind of thing. It's like so much
right.
there with fitness. um but yeah, I was gonna say, after I started the sweat classes, then I gradually moved into the CrossFit classes and started with the barbell, and like took me like 6 to 9 months to learn all the Olympic lifts and all of the different skills, and just going consistently and learning and being kind of humbled. I really liked staying with it because it was so humbling. It was like the yoga, starting from zero,
Right.
being humiliated and embarrassed, and like feeling totally ignorant, like you don't know what you're doing. And with people who are, you're paranoid, they're watching you,
Supportive.
and
Yeah.
all of the reasons why people might not go and try. But you have to start somewhere, and over time, you just keep going to classes, you listen to the coaches. I have many great coaches, but the head coach and the other guy that owns it, they know what they're doing. And I had to learn the hard way to trust them and stop arguing with them, telling them what I thought.
Mhm.
And they were like, okay. And they're so good, so patient. But it's huge also for mental health. Like, there's loads of studies that show lifting heavy weights, it's great for women in menopause, but it's also great for depression and anxiety. And so all those reasons that I do it for myself, but also to kind of walk the walk for clients, and, really try to do
That
what
sounds
I
good.
would prescribe for people.
That sounds great. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that introduction to CrossFit. Like I said, it's the best one I've had. So maybe our listeners will be have their interest piqued about CrossFit. It's a nice,
Yeah.
gentle entry. So who are you?
Maureen from Landscapes for Learning. Learn to live and live to learn.
And I'm Pierre from Yoga Heals Everywhere. Peace through grace, my friends. Peace through grace. Get yourself to a gym,
A CrossFit gym.
a CrossFit gym.